as I mentioned, was not on the show last week. Thank you again, Brandon, for holding down the fort with Joe there. But I want to chime in a little bit on the big news that Hailie Deegan revealed within the last week or so, week and a half, that she is moving to the Xfinity Series full-time in 2024 with AM Racing.
Are you going to pick on me again?
Well, I'm not going to pick on you. I want to take a moment to have a discussion and respond to something you say, because I did watch the show last week, and like I said, you guys did a great job. But you said something about the person that is, I think this is objective, NASCAR's most successful female driver ever, that I want to have a little bit of a discussion about as to how it relates to Hailie Deegan in the context that you were talking about last week. So we'll roll the tape here and then we'll get into it.
Sure. For sure. This is no Danica Patrick. She does have an amazing talent. It's not just purely for brand purposes and sponsorship deals. Okay.
So Brand, I've got a couple of questions for you.
Right.
And you can answer them. I'm not, they're not rhetorical questions.
I feel the spotlight now. So
yeah. Let's just think about this for a second. Is it impressive? Is it an impressive achievement for a driver to be able to say they both led laps at the Indianapolis 500 and the Daytona 500?
That's really cool. Yeah. And to get the pole at the Daytona 500, that's amazing.
To finish on the podium at the Indianapolis 500?
You bet. That's
to win an IndyCar Series race?
Motegi, outstanding.
To rack up almost 200 Cup Series starts and finish in the top 10 7 times?
7 out of the 200. That's a little where I go,
but
it's still great,
I'm just saying there are a lot of drivers that can't even say that.
Fair enough.
I'm not. So here's my thing, and here's where I think I disagree or take a little bit issue with the comments you made last week. I'm not going to try to sit here and argue that, Danica Patrick actually had a great NASCAR Cup Series career. It's incredibly underrated. Like, I'm not going to make that argument.
Sure.
But I think to reduce her entire career to say, she was just there for the marketability and, the sponsorship deals and, to get her name out there.
Yeah, that was selling it short. I agree.
That to me, yeah. So
yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say there. And
yeah.
I don't think that that's the case for Hailie Deegan either. But what I want to follow up on is I think this is a comparison that, I think even Deegan herself tried to shy away from a little bit as she was starting her career. Because as soon as she won that first K&N race at Meridian, everybody was saying, okay, this is the next Danica Patrick. This is the next driver that's going to make it at the top level and, take that bar that Danica set and raise it to the next level, raise it even higher. I think she's tried to say, like, look, I'm not Danica Patrick. I'm just Hailie Deegan. I'm here to carve out my own name and make my own career in this sport. But I still remember seeing a tweet in the summer of 2019. Somebody said, Deegan has 3 career wins in racing. Danica only had 1. Therefore, Deegan has already surpassed Danica Patrick.
Racing, like, define the levels here. It really does matter. Like,
and I couldn't help but sit back and think, okay, an IndyCar Series race, the top level of American open wheel racing, versus 3 wins on last lap passes where she moved the leader out of the way.
Yeah.
Basically the ARCA level, K&N. K&N West, now ARCA West.
Mm.
And take nothing away from her. No female driver had ever done that before. She went out and won 3 races. That's an accomplishment. I don't think it's an accomplishment that puts you on the same level as somebody that led laps in Indianapolis, led laps at Daytona, sat on the pole for Daytona, finished in the top 10 in the Cup Series a handful of times, and had some strong runs here or there. I know she definitely on the whole, on the average, underperformed. But, let's just hold the comparisons. And, I mean, Brandon, I know it, your comments last week kind of sparked me wanting to say this, but this isn't a you thing anymore. This is just, what I see on Twitter, the constant comparisons that get made all the time.
Yeah, I see them too.
Let's not totally discredit what Danica accomplished, and let's hold on the Deegan comparisons to suggest that she has surpassed somebody that, although she underachieved, I think accomplished some very real things in this sport. I take issue with this idea that a driver that has 5 top 10s in the Truck Series level has already surpassed a driver that had 7 top 10s in the Cup Series level. That's more where I stand on those comparisons there. Okay. If we should even be making those comparisons.
Yeah, I just when I see Danica Patrick's stock car career, I frown. That's just,
and I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
It just lasted way too long. And I think the only reason it lasted so long is because of the marketability. And that's all I was always trying to say there.
Sure.
But it's apples and oranges. It's not even comparable. Hailie Deegan, like you said, is carving out her completely own career here, and a success in the open wheel world. That's amazing. But when she brought it over to NASCAR, she got some top tens out of it. That's more than most all of startup drivers can say. So she put a lot of success into it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody is going to sit here and try to pretend like, she didn't underperform. But when I see people make those comparisons, I have to look back and say, like, what are we doing? Because I don't think, she hasn't even tested a Cup car yet. I don't think she's even close to testing a Cup car yet. She just announced a full-time Xfinity Series deal. Let's see what she can do there. And then, again, I hope that she's not going to make the same mistake that I think Stewart-Haas and Chevrolet made with Danica Patrick. Because I honestly think if Danica and Kelly Earnhardt Miller even said this on the Dale Jr. Download a couple years ago as well. I think it was the episode that Deegan was a guest, actually. Had Danica Patrick stayed in what was then Nationwide for 1 or 2 more years, I think her stock car career might have lasted a couple more years down the road. I think she would have been better prepared for the Cup Series. I'm not saying she would have been, as successful as you would expect a Stewart-Haas racing driver to be, but I think it would have better prepared her, and I would not have put winning a race past her. I think if you go back and look at some of her runs at Daytona in that junior motorsports car, if you go back and look at Montreal in 2012 and she was leading the race and some moron threw a shoe out onto the track and it messed up her car's handling and threw her back down in the mid-20s.
Yeah,
I think she had opportunities, but again, to your point, Brandon, I don't think your point was entirely off base. I just kind of disagree with where you took the conclusion to it.
Okay.
But I think the marketability allowed her to be rushed up the stock car ranks much quicker than she should have been, given that she was coming from an open wheel background.
Yeah, I mean, and
one thing, Hailie Deegan, gets this opportunity in the Xfinity Series, and we'll see what comes of it. But that they don't just decide after this deal's done, okay, we'll take her straight to the Cup Series, even if her performance doesn't warrant that. Let's see what she can do, and evaluate where her career should go from there.